Hello, and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Kathy Healey, along with my co-host, MaryEllen Macri. On today's show, we're going to be talking to Donna Corbett from the Quannapowitt Players. The Quannapowitt Players, for those of you who don't know, is a local community theater located in Reading. So welcome, Donna.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. So let's start out with a little bit about you. What's your background in theater?
I'm an English major. I love theater. I've been going to it ever since I was a kid. I always liked it. I didn't get really involved with it full-time, I should say, from an advocation point of view, not from a working point of view until I was older. And QP was the place it started, so I've been there ever since. I've done other local community theaters, but that's my home.
Wow. And where'd you go to college?
I went to UMass in Boston and Leslie College for my graduate degree.
Okay. And your graduate degree is in English or?
Business.
Oh, business. Okay.
Theater is a great place, but you don't make a lot of money in it, so you do find other ways to make a living.
Speaking of that, what do you do for your day job?
I'm a crisis manager for Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, so I work 7x24 supporting very large customers.
Wow. So let's talk about the origin of the Quannapowitt Players. It started in Wakefield in the YMCA? Is that
yeah, in 1938. Actually, before 1938, there was a group, it was called the Boston Little Theater League, and there were lots of small theaters that were around, and we ran out of the Wakefield Y, and we'd play in places like the Princess Theater here in Wakefield. It's no longer here. We'd play in schools, whatever we could schlep the sets and costumes to. In 1938, they couldn't do it anymore. They were getting tight for space and time, and they suggested that people start their own theater. So some of the folks were from Reading, some of them from Wakefield, and so they started Quannapowitt Players because the lake was right between us.
Wow, that's interesting. And you're in a two-room schoolhouse now?
Yeah, in 1950, the Chestnut Hill School was up for sale. It's on Hopkins Street in Reading, and we bought it. We didn't do any theater there until the 1969-70. Built sets, stored costumes, built props, had meetings there, built a number of floats for the Wakefield 4th of July parade there.
I've been in a few of those.
And so it was one of those places that you used for storage, building, meeting. But then in the 60s, they decided, well, this could be a theater. So we made it a black box theater.
Okay, and what is a black box theater for those of viewers that don't know?
Black box is an environment where you have no stage per se. There's not like a raised platform where people are on. There's no places where people come in from the sides. It's right in front of you. You can move it around whatever way you want to. The seats are usually movable. Ours used to be until our knees gave out. They're pretty heavy, so we leave them right where they are right now. But it's one of those things that no proscenium arch, no curtain, no stage, raised staged area.
Oh, interesting. And it should be noted that my co-host, Emmy, is also an actress at the Quannapowitt Players, in addition to her day job at Wakefield High School.
A very good actress, I might add.
So, Emmy, tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Well, that is the Quannapowitt was my home theater. I was in 7th grade, or 6th or 7th grade, and they had just started the Quannapowitt Children's Theater Company, which was a summer program for local youths, and my brother and I auditioned for it, and we happened to get in, and I fell in love with the theater. It was where I was from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. I rode my bike there. Like some of my closest friends, who I'm still friends with today, I met there. It's where I learned how to hang lights. I learned how to do costumes. I learned how to build sets. I learned how not to be afraid to go up into scary attics or hang from pipes to hang lights. And it was a wonderful place. A wonderful man named Armand Fillion and Barbara Can ran the program. And that's where I spent my summers, and it was free. My parents never spent a dime. We just were there, and we had a great time. It's where I fell in love with the theater, and it's probably why I ended up majoring in theater in college because of it. Why I still love theater today.
That's great. And where did you go to school, Emmy, for those viewers?
I have my undergraduate degree from the University of New Hampshire in theater and communications, and then I have an equivalent of a BS in mathematics from the University of Lowell, that back then, so it's now the UMass.
Yeah.
And I have my master's degree from Salem State in education.
Wow, it's a lot of degrees. So Donna, you're the director there, right? So
I'm one of the directors.
One of the directors.
We basically have a group of people that have directed, and we ask them to either do a show for us in a small part of a big show or a small one act, or they've done it someplace else and we all go and see it, basically to find out whether or not they can pull together the costumes, the lights, the actors, because the directors pretty much do it all. So you have to be pretty open and patient and be able to do all of that at one fell swoop. So we have a couple of dozen people that are on the list that direct, and they'll like some of the shows that are there and they'll put their name in for it, and the board of directors will make a decision who's going to direct. And we figure out the season that we're doing a good season ahead of time too. So we will be doing things like, right now we're starting the play reading committee so that we can pick for 2021.
Oh, really? Wow, is that far?
Oh yeah, we do it that far in advance. You have to. And you have to get the royalties and the rights to do it.
Oh, right. Now, what are the biggest challenges? As being
Right now, it's paying off a loan that we took out for over $500,000.
Oh my gosh.
About 10 years ago, we decided to add almost the same footprint to the place that we already had, and we put a lobby on. We never had a lobby. And so we wrapped it around the house. We created bathrooms on the first floor so they're handicapped accessible. I hate to tell you where people had to go to the facilities before. And now it's much more, I mean, we have storage space, we have costume storage space, we have space.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And it's double the size from where I grew up.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
But it was expensive.
Okay.
And so certain things we cannot do. We are 140 seats, so putting on a musical in order to pay the royalties for it, because royalties, you can, $15,000 is probably minimum for doing a musical.
Wow.
And we just couldn't pay that back with the seats. We'd have to charge a lot of money for every patron. We're not going to do that. So we'd be glad to do it once we pay off our loan, but right now we have to pay that off.
Now, what do you charge for a ticket?
It's $22 for a regular ticket and $20 for a senior or student.
Oh, that's good.
So, and under
That's
10,
affordable.
you know, we have another charge. So
nice.
yeah.
Now, with these actors and actresses, do you have any personality issues, or does anyone think they come in with a big ego, or any issues like that?
There's a big sign that says the drama stays on the stage. I'm not sure it does all the time, but you know, it's life. It's a microcosm of everybody else and every other thing out there. Yeah.
And what is the audition process?
So every director does it slightly different, but for example, if you're doing a physical comedy and you need someone to be able to fall down and do a pratfall, you may have to create your sides that have that in it, and you have to say, okay, let me see you do it. If you're doing a drama and you're doing it between 3 people, you're going to have a scene that has the 3 people in it so you can see what's going on. There's no props involved with this, an audition. It is all vocal. People can sit on a chair, but it's all done with their attitude, what they think the character is. The director may say, you know, didn't quite like that. Would you mind trying it, doing it this way? And then we see whether the actor can do it that way too. And then at the end of the day, it's the director's choice whether they like it or not and whether they cast you or not.
Okay. And
Nobody ever has come in with a monologue. It's not like
we do. Some directors will. When I've done Shakespeare, for example, I have asked for a monologue just because it's very hard to get scenes with smaller groups in, say, and you want to see what the person will do. And I also do one other thing that a lot of it's my personal preference, and it's, I think, fairly unique. I've saved things from all those very, very stupid newspaper articles where Martians have landed in Alabama and troll people have come out. You know those kind of ones?
Yes, I do. I love those.
Those National Enquirer ones. I've saved those over the years, and I make people read them because they're cold. And I can hear what they sound like without having an accent, if they have to have a British accent, or what they sound like, or what they do something cold that they've never seen before. And to me, that helps me make a decision. Not everyone does things like that, obviously, but that's my choice.
wow, that's terrific.
Yeah.
And Emmy, tell us about one of your favorite experiences there.
Oh, gosh. Well, one of my favorite experiences was many years ago. Why am I just blanking on the name of the show that we did? You directed with Hugh and Sean, and we brought it to Brandeis Theater.
On the Razzle.
On the Razzle. I know, I can't believe it was many, many years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was many years ago. And we just talked about it just recently, that I was playing a maid at the time, and I had this huge tray of drinks, and I'm not a waitress by any stretch of the imagination. I never would have made it a day. And I had to carry these and hand them out to people while people were talking. And Hugh Metzler, who I love dearly and who has since passed away, he was a very funny man, and he used to like to crack people up on stage to see how far he could get. And I was laughing so hard, the tray was shaking, and all of a sudden everything was falling floor, and I'm like trying to pick up while the scene is continuing, and I'm trying to clean up the mess I made. I'm like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you when I
But
get
the
off
audience
stage.
thought it was part of the deal.
They did. They
thought it was funny.
Oh.
No, that was not part of the show, but
Oh my gosh.
and I could never have duplicated what I did. But it's those live moments that you can't edit out.
Right.
You
right.
have to go with. No matter what happens on stage, you have to keep going. And I think that's probably been the best lesson of my
I would agree.
life. That when something goes wrong, you
Deal with
just,
it.
Just
you
roll
just
with
deal
it.
with it.
Yeah.
You make believe that it was part of it, and you go on.
Oh my gosh.
We've had many a case where there's been a gun that's supposed to be shot, and we have a sound cue to go off, and it doesn't do it. The poor actor's out there going, bang. You know, it works.
Oh my gosh.
works.
You do what you have to do.
Now, are these shows taped? Like, I know this.
We cannot tape them, just
Oh,
like anybody
okay.
else.
Okay.
We are the only thing that might be slightly different. Some playwrights will put an actual brand into their play, and then we can do that because they've got permission to do it. But that's the only way you can do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And have you ever had any celebrities come on, like?
Well, we've actually had a couple of people that have gone on to be celebrities. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Kathy St. George was a graduate from Stoneham High School and actually taught in schools over there, and she's very popular currently around here. She started with the Quannapowitt Players.
Oh my gosh.
Another woman who has been on every touring company for every Nun and I think Fiddler of the Roof traveling company has been out there. She's from Arlington. There's been a few people that have gone on from here and done fairly well with it. So Mary Carrick is out in California. She has a little asterisk after her name. So there's a few people that have done fairly well out there from community theater.
Wow, that's great. And how many people does it take to like put on a production, like generally?
Whoa, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
More than you would think.
Yeah. From the point of view, you need props, costumes, set, lights, sound. So if you have those 5 aspects and you have more than a couple of people needing to do some things in all of those, you've already multiplied it by 2. Then you have the cast.
Oh yeah.
And then you have a stage manager and a director. If you have fights, you have a choreographed fight. You usually have a fight director. If you have someone is needed to do an accent, for example, you know, if you had to get a very heavy accent or a French accent, you might get a dialogue coach in to do that too.
gosh.
So there's a lot.
And you have to pay all these people?
We
or?
pay nobody.
No.
Oh my God.
That's
not
one
even-
reason why we're not doing too well with paying our bills. No, we pay no one. It's all volunteer. Everybody gets.
Everybody, even the
Everybody.
coaches, even.
Directors,
Everybody,
nobody.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
Out of love.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have to say that I think I am a season subscriber as well. So I buy a season subscription for my parents for their anniversary, which I highly recommend everybody do.
Thank you for the plug.
Because it is the best bang for your buck. I like to think of it. It is, I think that people have a false belief of what community theater is. They think of it as maybe amateur.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm going to put that in quotes.
Yep.
And it's not. Some of the finest performances I've ever seen in my life have been on the Quannapowitt stage.
Really?
It boggles my mind the amount of talent that is in our community, that is on stage, the sets that I have seen built. I'm like, I can't believe, and it's all volunteers.
Wow.
coming in and building. Some people have never used a drill in their life, and they're building. They get they work together as a team to build amazing sets, and it's a wonderful experience.
I think the difference that we have today is we have so many other means of looking at different media. I mean, we have phones, we have laptops, we have pads, we have TVs, we have movies, but theater is so intimate, and especially in a place like the Players, we're no further away than 12 feet from an actor.
Yeah.
You're that close to them. And so it's almost like watching TV, except they're right there in front of you.
Right.
And it's a different medium. You know, on TV, someone will have to make a facial expression, and it can be very slight because the camera is right in on them. When you're doing a stage production, it has to be a little bit broader. So for those people who've never done it, it may feel a little bit awkward, but it is something that happens to make the image play, to the character to play. So it's slightly different, but it's got the same kind of feel as being intimately watching someone on TV, and you're that close.
And also because it's almost a theater in the round.
Yes.
So when you're performing on the stage, you have to be aware that your back might be to somebody in the audience, so you can't cover the person that you're looking at. And so you're constantly playing angles so that this audience can see me, this audience can see you. And so you're constantly playing that angles, but it also makes it really interesting when you're an audience member, because it's like you're sneaking into somebody's home and you're watching them inside their home, because you don't always see their face when you're watching somebody in their home. Sometimes you see their back. And so
That's true.
It becomes far more intimate. And I think that's why I enjoy that. And I've always enjoyed black box theater, probably because I grew up with it, versus the proscenium
Well,
theater.
it's closer, because I think what happens in a proscenium, it's usually far away, and you could have 26 rows of chairs before you see, to the stage. Whereas this one, what do we have? Maybe 10 tops?
Yes, you have 10 tops from people, and so it makes it more intimate. I think that it creates an atmosphere of instant intimacy. If the show is uncomfortable, or if it's about an uncomfortable topic, you as an audience member, you're going to feel that directly. If it's a comedy,
You're right there.
you are right there. You will.
Actually, I have one patron that knows. He sits in the front row every single show. He's very good about it. And he waits for me to come and tell him that, there's an actor that's going to come in front of me. He goes, I was hoping so. Because it's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Is it similar to North Shore Music Theater, where they have...
Yeah, it's got that same kind of feel to it. Of course, North Shore is much bigger.
Much bigger, more money.
A lot more money. And the thing about North Shore that's kind of interesting that I like it, technically they have so much more than we can afford, but their shows can rotate.
Yes.
We cannot do that. They have that intimacy certainly on the first few rows, and I would say that's very much the same.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. And how much rehearsing does it take for each show? Each show, they must be different, right?
We give each show 6 weeks to put up a show. Now, that doesn't mean that they might not cast it a little bit earlier, and they might do some read-throughs, but they can't get into the stage area to actually rehearse until the 6-week mark, because we have a show right before them that closes, and it's like one right after another.
Very similar to a professional house.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's why I cringe when people don't believe that community theater is of the same quality, because it is run like the Quantapowitt Players is run very much like a professional house, except nobody gets paid. It's all based on love.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what.
And there's probably a lot of companies that don't know how much they support the arts.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We all sneak in time in here and there to do things.
Oh, yes.
Sorry. It's true.
It is true.
Are there cue cards? And like, what happens when they forget their lines? Like, a lot of ad-libbing? A lot of ad-libbing go into the...
I'd like to not call it ad-libbing. I would like to call it saving, but yes. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It has happened, absolutely. And what you want is the actors to know where they are in the scene, what's going to happen next. And I've never been part of any show or seen any show where they haven't been able to pick up on it.
Right.
They're tremendous.
Sometimes you might repeat a line several times
To get back?
to try to find your way back. And there are certain authors like Mamet, David Mamet. His scripts are very repetitive in some sequences. So if you get off the track, all right, which sequence am I trying to get them back onto? And that can be difficult. But you just, again, it's live theater. That's what makes it interesting. It's working on your feet. You know, you have to figure out what to do next,
Almost
which is
like
what
a
makes
teacher.
it fun.
Almost like being a
Oh, it's
teacher.
like being a teacher.
You're on
Right.
stage all day.
Yep.
Yep.
I like to think of it as I have a trapped audience. You know,
Yeah,
five
they're
trapped
trapped.
audiences a day.
That's an interesting thought.
Now, how does the average person like myself get into something like this? Like, if they want
The best way is to start auditioning, and Quannapowitt Players is one of many, many community theaters around here. Actually, we have quite. We're blessed with a number of community theaters, and some of them, only a few have been around longer or as long as the Players, but there's a lot of them around, and you know, it's going down auditioning, and usually it's from the scene in the show, and you play off of somebody else, obviously, and then they go through the scenes and pair people up, see what they like, make choices.
Do you collaborate with any of the other theaters on any sort of work?
We have for things like borrowing costumes, set pieces. Sometimes when we've needed certain kinds of people, and I use that age-wise, that's sometimes an issue because you may not have a certain age bracket that you need that came to audition. And we might go out to have you seen someone out there that is in this age bracket? Can we talk to them? And that's some, you know, if, for example, we don't do children's theater, so if we need a child, that's a little different for us. So we have to go out and try to find it from people we know in other theaters.
How come you don't do children's theater?
I was told a long time ago, before I joined, that it was a club for adults, and that's what they wanted to keep it. They actually put bylaws in.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's why the Quannapowitt Children's Theater Company was only done during the summer, because that's the lull time for the adult company. So that was the only time that it was ever done, was during the summer. And we did everything. The kids were expected to show up on time and be adults.
Yeah, it was an amazing program.
It was an amazing program. I was very blessed.
But I think the reason being back then, I mean, you think of this was done in 1938. They were probably in their heyday, if you will, in putting everything together and becoming organized through the 40s and 50s. And that was the time frame, you know, they wanted this as their space. So I'm sure that that's why it was there. Not that we couldn't change bylaws, but right now those are the bylaws with the state of Massachusetts.
Wow. And you started when you were a kid. Right?
Yep. And I just, as I grew up, I went into the adult section.
And they're still there, so it must be.
What?
It
And
must
you're
be
still there.
I'm still there, and I love it.
And your
my
brother?
brother is still actively
brother is-
involved.
Yeah, her
in
brother
it.
Sean has been part of many, many shows there.
Yes, and people, you start to become, at least for like my brother, a celebrity.
Yes.
Because people say, "Oh my God,
Sean's in it, yes.
Oh.
They'll look in I know this person. Oh, this is great." And they'll
Okay.
see it. And,
People recognize you at CVS? And
well, not me, but my
okay.
brother. Yes.
Your brother?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You have some
Absolutely.
paparazzi following you. So what's playing in Quannapowitt Players now? Like, what is?
So we just closed the season with a farce called Funny Money, and
very good.
What was that about?
It's about a gentleman who picks up the wrong briefcase, and the wrong briefcase contains a lot of money, and he decides to keep it. And it's talking about lines and drops. It's a perfect farce where almost every other line is not really necessary, but needed to keep the pace up. So there could be, "Oh, Henry, oh." And every time it was slightly different, but really didn't bring anything to the table in the way of the story, but was needed while business was happening, or so. And it's written that way, and that was painful for everybody because it was always awkward. But it was a very funny show. It was very well accepted.
Yes.
We had a great time. So now we're dark, and what we do is, because we don't have a children's theater, we co-produce with the New England. I'm not sure you can remember the name. Sorry. We've been doing it for 5 years. I should remember it. It's a show. It's a group of people a woman who started doing children's theater, and she does it all year. But in the summertime, she puts on it for the high school, junior high school level, and she puts on a little bit higher level. And having a space that's not like a church basement or someplace like that. Theater is wonderful. So
Right.
we teach the kids how to do everything then too. And so they'll be in next month
Right.
doing Legally Blonde. And then we've already cast and we're already rehearsing for our opening show of the season, which is Silent Sky, which is an incredible story about the woman at Harvard that basically mapped the stars and didn't get any credit for it.
Wow.
So-
It's really it's
Yeah.
a wonderful show.
Are you trying out for that?
Oh, no.
for
It's
that?
done, actually.
It's all cast and ready.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Yeah.
No, the only part I would have been appropriate for would need a Scottish accent, and I haven't done one of those
Oh,
in
that's
years.
right. You
so
were telling me. Emmy, when's your next show for them?
for will be Suburban
Holidays,
Holidays,
yeah.
Oh, Suburban
which
Holidays.
is one of the fundraisers throughout the year that Quannapowitt does, and I'm going to be directing one of those shows. So I'm very excited because it's my first time directing at Quannapowitt, so I'm very nervous.
So you're not going to act in that. You're just going to
No, not that I
just
know
gonna
of.
direct.
You
Unless
never know.
You never know, but unless.
So this fundraiser is something this is our 8th season, and what we do is we solicit plays from hopefully New England playwrights. That's our goal, and about all different holidays, although Christmas does seem to be one of the prevalent ones. And what we try to do is put together an evening of fun and balance.
Oh.
They're not serious. We don't try to do it seriously. It's more like an entertainment night. And we have a number of directors, and we have auditions for everything, and we cast people, and mostly, I'm going to say maybe the most we've ever had is 32 people that are part of the show.
Oh, it's awesome.
So it's great because the audiences love it. We open Thanksgiving weekend, and people after the turkey are always looking for something to do, so it's always fun to come.
Do you ever have to cut anybody? Or
Things have happened where they can't do something after they've said they could, or, but it's usually personal. It's not from us saying you
Right.
can't do
okay.
it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun.
It is.
I actually auditioned by accident. I
Oh.
didn't realize, I was there to buy a season subscription for my parents, and they had auditions, and I was talked into it, and I did it. I had nothing else to do, so, and I was so glad I did. I had a wonderful time. I met some of the nicest people, people I would never have met otherwise, and it's been awesome.
And in fact, the piece that she did for that, we just did as part of the Porch Fest for the 375th anniversary in the town of Reading. We had
okay.
music on the porch, and we had a show.
Yep, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah, it
that's
was fun.
terrific. Now, how do the viewers find out like what's playing? Do they go on qptheater.com?
Yeah, it's the best way to do it. We try to put it out on Facebook. Obviously, it's out there. We try to put it into the local papers, and sometimes we get pictures, and sometimes we don't. But we always try to put things out there. We put it on the Reading's version of WCAT.
Oh, okay. That's right. We won't say the names.
Yeah, it's probably not going to. I mean, if you'd like to put it up on WCAT, we'd be more than happy.
Yes, qptheater.com.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate your time, and Emmy for your input. And I wish you the best of luck for next season.
Thank you.
I hope to be there myself.
That would
I
be
might be
nice.
auditioning.
That would be lovely.
Okay. And thank you for watching Talk of the Town.